Hello, good morning, and welcome to your most authoritative newspaper review. Good morning, Ghana, and it's coming to live from our studios here at Metro Television. And this program can also be accessed on your DSTV channel 277. The program is proudly brought to you by Lipton, inspiration flowing from nature. And my name is Josephine Oppong-Yeboah, and I'm stepping in for your regular host, Randy Abe. He'll be joining you by tomorrow, as you guess. So let me run you through some of the issues making headlines on our various newspapers, after which I'll be introducing my guests to you, and then we'll be touching on some of the key issues making headlines, beginning with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Asantehene dams detractors, State of the Nation address tomorrow, and that can be seen on page 16 of the Daily Graphic. Gender Ministry wants Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital stillbirth issue probed. The Ghanaian Times, State of the Nation's address to focus on economy, energy, and water, and that can be seen on page 33 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper, and it comes with a big picture of President John Dramani Mahama. The Komfo Anokye missing baby, Chief Imam calls for probe. It also comes with a picture of Sheikh Dr. Osman Nuhu Sharibitu. The Chronicle newspaper, wounded lion raids whole assembly with police motorcade to chase out finance officer. Alote Jacob stabs Mahama in the back. I have been victim of false allegations, Otunfo. The Enquirer newspaper, Ejay Kojo demolitions, NPP MPs back TDC as Na Toshi Ado runs for her own lives. And it comes with a picture of Na Toshi Ado, MP for Tema West, and Daniel Ni Kwate titles Global, who is the MP for Tema East. After bastardizing the Special Operation Unit, Customs falls on own Dega as official aids Indian company to evade tax, and CID hands official for investigation as company admits bribing officials. Dr. Boama inaugurates 3 bold charges members to work hard, and it comes with a picture of Dr. Mani Boama, Minister of Communications. Thousands mourn the boss player as he goes home. The New Crusading Guy newspaper. Komfo Anokye missing baby blues. Chief Imam words in 6th presidential intervention. CJ Legal Counsel probe top lawyer for alleged impersonation. Kotokraba Markets project in limbo as contractors threaten court action. The Insight newspaper. Allegations against Paul Afoko are serious, and it comes with a picture of Paul Afoko. Lee Okran speaks today. Daily Guide. Nana for 2016, Wontumi declares, I'm not a cocaine dealer, Otunfo. Sam Jonah son dead. How Komla died, wife speaks. All of this on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper. The Daily Dispatch, NPP gurus bombshell on TV. Nothing wrong with NPP being an Akan party. The New Statesman, Akufo-Addo to speak on Ghana in London as he denies quitting active politics. NPP needs trust to manage political resources, Boabin Asamoah tells delegates. Scandal. Government to ban imports, a recipe for disaster. And it comes with a big picture of Honorable Haruna Idrisu. The General Telegraph. Ghana National Association of Private Schools blasts politicians for playing politics with nation's educational system. And it comes with a picture of Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, Minister of Education. Parliament closes abruptly for lack of quorum. And it comes with a picture of Joe Ajaho. He is a Speaker of Parliament. The Founder newspaper, soldiers angry over fraudulent deal. Immigration cries for border fencing. Today, delaying funds for district assembly elections. President must address it. This can be seen on page 3 of the Today newspaper. Setepe dodges MPs. Komladimo goes home. The Daily Searchlight. Post Mahama State Address. MPs reject gag order. Daily Post. As he goes home, tears flow for Komla, with family and friends paying glowing tribute to him. Airtel's pro wants violent overthrow of NDC government. Daily Heritage. Trip down memory lane. 2012 economic lies exposed. Ghana was ranked 4th best in Africa and 2nd best in West Africa. Ghana Palava. Hold your fire, Dr. Tony Adu. Stop the media war, NDC Cup. It's saying this, and it comes with a picture of Stephen Ocquaye. Public agenda. Doubtful clouds hang over Ghana Infrastructure Fund. Will it suffer fate of other existing funds? TDC administers selective justice, evidence number 3. The Moment, oil exploration wreaks havoc in Jomoro and Elembele. Daily Democrat, government to diversify power sector, and says the picture here is John Jinapo. So Daily Democrat, not Abu Jinapo, so it's John Jinapo. NCA Nita Gifek board inaugurated to lead country into ICT world. The Ghanaian Observer, Kunedu boys go wild, accuse Mahama government of sinking corruption. The Herald newspaper, 5.26 billion Ghana cedis Indian tax evader grabbed. Custom officer in trouble as presidential task force retrieves 300 million Ghana cedis for government. Business Week, Ghana loses $1.3 billion. Economy Times, SEC drafts legislation for commodities exchange. Economic slowdown blamed on institutions. Welcome back to the program. It's Good Morning Ghana, live from our studios here at Metro Television, brought to you by Lipton. And my guests are seated. On my immediate left is Mike Ocquaye Jr., who is the former Deputy Secretary for the NPP Greater Accra. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And next to him is Honorable James Agalga, who is the MP for Builsa North and also the Deputy Interior Minister.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so we'll start with a very short one before we go into our major discussion for today, and that has to do with Sam Jonah's son who passed away on Saturday. Just to read a little bit about him. So Sir Sam Jonah's son, Richie Jonah, is dead. Another young, vibrant, energetic young man gone again. So Richie Jonah, the son of business man Sam Jonah, has died in London on a business trip. And he's an entrepreneur himself. Richie, 38, died on Saturday, sadly in his hotel room, February 22nd, on a business trip. Sad one. Beginning with you, Mike. Is that why you're in black?
Let me start by saying a very cherished good morning to your viewers, my fellow panelist, James, and to your very good self. Yes, that's the reason why I'm in black this morning. Very shocking weekend after burying our friend Komla. Then now, even worse still, a brother, Richard, who's the second son of Sam Jonah, Sir Sam Jonah, and Auntie Theodora deepest condolences to both of them in advance, the whole Jonah family, of course. And very, very sad news. Very, very sad news. He was in his hotel over the weekend. He had gone on a business trip and to do other personal stuff as well. And basically, his cousin went to visit him at the hotel, saw ambulances parked there, went to inquire and found out that it was regarding Richard. And so from Saturday night, the news started filtering in all through to Sunday. Very, very shocking experience. And especially on the back of Komla's passing and being laid to rest on that particular day, it's becoming a worrying trend where very young, ambitious, and especially hardworking people are passing way before their 70 years. So for me, I would like to use this opportunity to maybe ask all of us to slow down a bit. The rat race, though not necessarily a negative thing, is really taking its toll on us, especially trying to cater for yourself, cater for your family, cater for all the various people that one has a responsibility to look after. Just go to James.
It is a very sad one. James, another young, vibrant man gone. What is happening to our young ones?
Josephine, let me say good morning to your cherished viewers, and to join my brother here in conveying our condolence to the Jonah family. It's really sad that within a very short period, this country has lost very young, enterprising Ghanaians. We buried Komla Dumo on Saturday, and just when we thought after the burial of Komla would begin to experience some healing after his loss, another disaster has struck us with the death of Mr. Jonah. Well, reading his profile, it's very sad that such an enterprising young man would die at the age of 38. I don't have much to say, save to add to what my brother has just said, that, well, there are speculations that he died of cardiac arrest, similar to the cause of Komla's death. And so my advice to everybody is that let's take it easy, let's slow down a bit, let us take our vacations and go through regular medical checkups. You see, the problem with cardiac arrest is that the signs may have started showing for quite some time. It doesn't just strike you within a day. The symptoms may have been showing for quite some time and ignored. And so my advice is that all of us have to, go through medical checkups in a very routine manner. But I am very sad. Today is a sad day, and our condolence goes to the Jonah family. May his soul rest in peace.
All right, so Komla on Saturday was laid to rest, and then another sad news. So you've heard them, just slow down, take it easy, have a regular checkup, exercise to make sure that you don't fall a victim. There's no good news at all. So we're beginning with the big story for today. On the front page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper, State of the Nation's address to focus on economy, energy, and water. Let me read a little bit of the story, and it's by Samuel Nyoma, and it says the dysfunctional structures of the country's economy, which is making the country import-oriented as against export is expected to be the main focus of the State of the Nation address to be delivered by President John Dramani Mahama in Parliament tomorrow. The address is expected mainly to dwell on how government is handling the fundamental challenges confronting the economy with a view to empowering the people to be at the forefront of economic activity. Now, according to the Ghanaian Times sources, other important areas President Mahama would focus on will be the energy situation as the challenges in the water sector. The source said the president would also highlight on the gains in all sectors of national life, as well as spell out measures to resolve bottlenecks in education, health, and agriculture. The delivery of the annual State of the Nation address to the House is in accordance with the provisions of the 1992 Constitution, which mandate all sitting presidents to, at the beginning of the year, present to the people's representatives an amount of the happenings in the country. So we'll take it one after the other, and I'll begin with you, Honorable Agalga. Let's speak an economy first. Now, we all know about the fast depreciation of the Ghana cedis against the dollar. Are we really arresting the situation?
Yes, Josephine, measures have clearly been put in place to check the depreciation of the cedi. And so tomorrow I expect the president to lend his support to the directives and initiatives put in place by the Bank of Ghana to check the depreciation of the cedi and the State of the Nation address, which is a constitutional function that the president will discharge tomorrow in accordance with Article 67. A lot has been said about the depreciation of the cedi, and I guess the president will highlight on the causes of the depreciation of the cedi, which are well known to all those who are interested in finding out why the cedi all of a sudden took a nosedive and started depreciating. Ghana is not a country which is in isolation so far as the depreciation of the cedi is concerned. I mean, major economies in the world, notably Turkey, the Turkish currency depreciated in the value of about 20%. Even the Russian ruble also saw massive depreciation. You can talk about the Argentinian currency. All these countries have seen a massive depreciation in their currencies, not because of mismanagement locally, but due to certain international constraints in the global financial system. The U.S. economy is undergoing some adjustment, and so quite naturally, that has resulted in massive pressure on the local currencies of weaker economies like ours. So these are some of the causes of the depreciation of the cedi. It is not by an act of government or an omission on the part of government which has resulted in the depreciation of the cedi. All of us know that the structure of our economy must undergo some overhaul in order to make our cedi competitive, starting from 96. And you cannot apportion blame on this government. Starting from 96 up to 2009, our local currency depreciated by about 90%. You can't single out this government for criticism. As I said, the cedi not too long ago came up very strongly against most currencies like the dollar, the pound sterling, and the euro. And so what we are experiencing, I believe, is something that, clearly the measures have been mapped out to contain. And so the president is expected to lend his support to those measures and to prevail upon Ghanaians to be tolerant in the face of these crises. We must step up on exports. It is important to state that, look, the prices of gold and cocoa, some of our major exports, have declined drastically over the period. As a result, we have lost about $1.3 billion within the period. And so if you are saddled with such a situation, quite naturally, you expect pressure to be brought to bear on the local currency.
There's been so much complaints about the citizenry for the fact that the economy is too hard. People can't, even, have 3 square meal a day for that fact. Could it be as a result of the dollarization? Because a lot seems not to go right as the economy is concerned.
Josephine, it is quite true to say that with the depreciation of the cedi, definitely we find ourselves in a difficult situation, but the extent to which people would want to raise and blow up their alarm bells about what is happening may not exactly be a true reflection of what is happening on the ground. As I said, what is important is that we are faced with a crisis situation. Whether or not the government is on top of the issues would depend upon how government reacts to the crisis we find ourselves in. It is quite natural for a government and a country like Ghana, for that matter, to experience some of these crises, which are as a result of the shocks in the global financial system. And so what do you do when you are saddled with a situation like that? Do you panic and fold your hands in despair? No, this government hasn't done that. BOG has clearly come out with certain directives. The directives may be far-reaching, but in the long term, those directives would inure to the benefit of Ghana and the stabilization of the city. And so it is expected that His Excellency the President will prevail upon Ghanaians to bear with us. We're going through some difficulties, but it does not mean that, all hope is lost.
Okay. All right, so I'll start with you again. Your comment on it.
Well,
the State of the Nation address, which was supposed to take place on Thursday, was postponed, has been postponed, and it will take effect tomorrow. And it states, as you heard, economy, energy, water. And we're talking about the depreciation of the cedis against the dollar.
Well, very interesting times indeed in Ghana at present. And I don't blame the government when they sometimes try to parry away from themselves the fact that it is their policies, their fiscal indiscipline that has led to these very unfortunate events. Sometimes when I hear, for example, the recent press conference of the CPP, that Ghana is in its darkest days, and the reply from the NDC is rather not to say, look, we have some challenges and we want to deal with it, and then leave it there. Because a lot of times I've heard the president admit that there are serious challenges that have to be dealt with, and that he wants a all hands on deck approach to deal with the issue. That sort of statement encouraged some people within the MPP and the CPP and other parties for that matter to offer alternatives, to give some advice with regard to that. And I think that if we were to stay on that path, to chart that same course, then we'll be able to get some positivity. But if you look at a period in Ghana, within a 4-month period, electricity has shot up by 65%. 65% electricity has shot up. Water, virtually 7 to 10%. That's how high it has gone. Fuel, about 13% under NDC fiscal policy government policy in terms of all these areas. VAT 2.5%. And because of all of this, transport has also gone up by 50%. Pure water now 20%, and so on. And you come and tell us that it is not your fault. Then all of a sudden the blame game starts, and then we start to tell you that, look, you are not competent enough to run this government. Let me give you a typical example of the VAT situation. Somebody goes to take a loan that was valued at a certain point. I'm very surprised when this government says, talks about dollarization. You know, dollarization comes about because the dollar is one of the most stable currencies in the world. So even the Chinese money that they use in China, in terms of gold bars, all of that, they use the dollar, and then they decide how much you depreciate your money and do all the things that they're supposed to do. So in Ghana, if I go and take a loan in 2006 to build a house that I'm going to rent, or an office space or a restaurant space, and I took it at a certain value and I have to pay back, the best thing for me is to peg my rent at that time. Let's say it's the equivalent of Ghana cedi 600, and the dollar at that time is 300. I peg my rent at 300, so that no matter what, I'll get that value of that time in terms of rent. So my rent is $300 a month, okay? But I'll pay in Ghana cedis. So even though it's pegged with the dollar, I have to pay because the bank has already set a standard. Then now I have to go and sell at this restaurant. A very nice restaurant, let's say. I've put in a lot of capital to make some money. So I use some to pay back the loan. Then the bank will also use it to do its business. And then I use the rest to feed my family. But when the time comes, now VAT has been slapped extra 2.5%. So now my food is too expensive. Because my food is too expensive, the customers are coming in less. So I'm getting less cedis to service that debt, which had been valued already at that $300. And when my business closes, the government will come and tell me about import and export. What kind of behavior is this? Is it fair? And people's restaurants are closing. And in fact, people are supposed to add the 2.5% on it. They are not able to because the customers are complaining. So they are absorbing it. This is going on. Unless people in government positions, who are the ones supposed to know what kind of policies that they are supposed to implement, do not care. I don't understand what's going on. Let us talk about cocoa prices. The NDC government inherited in 2009 the best cocoa prices, the best gold prices. We all know cocoa doesn't grow in 3 years. Cocoa grows 5-7 years or more. My grandfather is a cocoa farmer, I know. When they came and inherited all the 1 million tons and were telling them that it is because of good spraying practices that was left as a legacy for you, they said no, it's their legacy. We said okay, then take it and maintain it. They took it, they couldn't maintain it. Now the prices have gone down, but they are also not talking about the production that has gone on and gone down rather. So if the production has gone down equivalent to the prices that have gone down in the world market, is that not double jeopardy? And as for the prices, we may say we can't control it, but production we can. So why can't you move from 1 million in 2010 to about 1.5 by now, so that we know that, oh, at least the government has been able to produce more cocoa, but it's just that the international market is not favoring us. We have not done this. In fact, the 1 million has gone down because of your policies, some of which are too many to name here on this show.
Can you name some? Negative
policies where farms, you go to a farm, A, B, C, D. A is sprayed, B is left, C is sprayed, D is left. That kind of behavior. And if this is happening in this country, some people must talk. I've never experienced a government where when they are making mistakes, and Dr. Baumia comes to tell you that when you use inflation for propaganda, the foreign currency will find you out. Some people even went to the extent of saying he's not an economist. He should keep quiet. In fact, it's only in Ghana that Nana Akufo-Addo can be called and said he's not a lawyer. He's not a Nana Addo is no lawyer. That's how our friends behave. When they are confronted with an issue, they rather attack the personality of the person who is trying to talk for Ghana to prosper, for Ghana to become better. So, as for me, I'm patiently waiting for the President's State of the Nation address. And I like this word, which I know my friend is very familiar with. Unequivocal. When you plead, you say, look, I'm not going to make any excuses. I apologize unequivocally, meaning that my apology is with no excuses. So if you are coming with your solutions, please come with your solutions and no excuses. Can you believe today you meet people in the government and they have a problem and you ask them and they'll go and tell you that in 2007 and in 2008, let's take it for granted that even it was bad in 2007, 2008. Isn't that the reason why you were brought in? To bring a better solution? And your solution is actually worse. And when they remind you, you say, oh no, what about this time? No turning back. When you have decided to follow Ghana and to move on forward, how are you turning back to look at 2004 and then I'll then start arguing, okay, what about 1996? And then somebody will come and say, what about in Nkrumah's time? And then somebody will go and say, oh, in Nkrumah's time, people were queuing for sugar and milk at Accra Sports Stadium. And so, but that is why we have a new government. Deal with the problem. Mr. Agalga, your government must deal with these problems and let Ghanaians see that you are trying to offer solutions, because we are not saying that there are no problems, but you know what a real manager is? A manager is somebody that in a situation, or a good one for that matter, which normal people will be befuddled. They won't be able to deal with it. You can deal with it, because whether you like it or not, it is not your rhetoric that's going to help. It is something called investor confidence. And the painful thing about investor confidence is you cannot touch it. It is something you cannot hold. It is something that people see. If I have my dollar and I take it to the bank today after selling my land at the value of $100,000 and my money is in the bank, I can go to England today and put my money there in euros. I can take it out in euros, but I cannot spend the euros. I'll have to change it. But nobody can go and dilute my euros to pounds without informing me. That in itself is wrong, because the agreement was take my money in dollars. I didn't put it in my house. Then you gave me a dollar checkbook. Then overnight you tell me that I cannot use that dollar checkbook, and you say that this will bring investor confidence.
Okay, James. So now it's made mention of a whole lot of issue for the fact that a lot is going on wrong in government, and for that matter, that is why the economy is slowing down, as we all are experiencing. Before we move on to energy, what do you have to say on this?
Josephine, it's unfortunate. My friend talks as if they haven't been in government before. But their track record is there for all of us to see. They were in power, the MPP were in power for 8 good years. Now, I don't know whether my friend here denies the fact that the depreciation in value of the cedi is as a result of, for instance, the sharp drop in the value of cocoa and gold at the world market, or it is his case that the current depreciation in value of the cedi is as a result of fiscal indiscipline on the part of government. I'm not too clear, because listening to his submission, somehow you get away with the impression that he agrees with the fact that yes, there are challenges in the global financial system. At the same time, he wants to attribute the challenges or the depreciation in value of the cedi to indiscipline on the part of government. I would like him to come clear so that we know how to deal with the issues. But having said that, I would want to take up the issues one after the other. He's alleged that, for instance, electricity, water, fuel, VAT, all these things have shot up as a result of indiscipline on the part of government. Did I hear him right?
Exactly.
Is he not aware?
Exactly, that's what
Is he not aware of the fact that with the implementation of the single spine salary pay policy, close to over 70% of our internally generated revenue is used to service our wage bill. He's very much aware of that fact. Is he not also aware of the fact that Ghana, upon attaining the status of low middle income status, is now not a candidate for donor support? Is he not aware about that fact? Is he not aware that we have so far lost $1.3 billion in foreign exchange as a result of the decline in the prices of cocoa and gold? If they were in government, what measures would they have put in place? I want to hear them tell us what alternative measures they could have put in place rather than to merely criticize.
So what
alternatives has Dr. Baumia prescribed as an economist? He hasn't. He's only talking. It's easy to criticize. And so when people question his credentials, that is the reason. He says he's an economist of international stature. We are saddled with a crisis situation. What prescriptions has he outlined? He has not. So people would be justified in questioning his credentials. But Josephine, having said that,
do you not think it's because maybe it's a government in power and it's within your jurisdiction to get things in the right perspective?
It is our prerogative, and that is why measures have been outlined. If we had thrown our hands in despair and said, oh, the cedi is depreciating, that is it, we go to sleep, then you'd be able to criticize us. But measures have been put in place. If you listen to some of the arguments that are being made by the MPP in particular, they are saying that businesses will shut down and all that. Should we continue to allow our economy to be dollarized? This has been an old phenomenon. Now we're saying that we must hold the bull by the horn. Let us not allow our economy to be dollarized. And you are complaining? How can the cedi be competitive if we continue to allow hotels to quote their rates in dollars? You go to some restaurants, they quote their rates in dollars. Are we a sovereign state at all? So that is what we're saying, that look, we are all in a crisis situation. All we need now is for us to criticize constructively, not destructively, and lend support to government to successfully implement these measures. Already there is evidence that the cedi is beginning to gain some stability as a result of the implementation of those measures. Why are we not commending government for the effort put in place? All we say is that cocoa prices, we didn't continue with the spraying of cocoa, etc. What is the evidence? Contrary to what he has said, the evidence is that government even invested more in the spraying exercise. I want him to challenge me on that point. I want him to challenge me on that point.
Okay, you made mention of the fact that certain
measures, you see, Josephine,
certain measures have been put in place. Can you state some of the measures?
It's important to state that, you see, production in the cocoa sector is bound to suffer. If the price of cocoa drops at the world stage, there's no incentive for you to produce more, because you produce and get less money for what you have produced.
How does it really affect the cocoa sector here?
We're saying that cocoa prices have dropped. That is a fact. And his argument is that it has dropped because production in that sector has declined, because we did not continue with the spraying exercise that was started by the MPP and all that. And I am saying that that is not the case. If you produce and the price you get for your produce, continues to drop, why would you produce more? So there's a direct correlation between the world market, the prices of cocoa and production in that sector. That point must be, stated in very clear terms. Now, he's talked about taxes and all that. It has become necessary for us to reduce subsidies. Not remove subsidies, reduce subsidies, so far as the utilities are concerned, so that we can expand access. I mean, we want to attain a certain coverage in terms of electricity. The rural electrification project is ongoing. How can we expand access if we don't remove some of the subsidies? We have to. Remember, we are no longer a candidate for donor support. We are spending over 70% of all revenue generated in servicing our wage bill. How else can government raise revenue to build roads, schools, hospitals in this country without raising taxes, without reducing subsidies? We can't continue to subsidize petroleum only for others to smuggle the petroleum across borders, whilst money is needed badly to fix our hospitals, our schools, remove schools and the trees, etc. So, in all, government has not fared badly. We are faced with genuine difficulties, which difficulties are not as a result of the act or omission of government. And he knows. I gave you examples. I thought he was going to address those issues. The ruble, the Russian ruble has declined by about 6%. The Turkish currency has dropped in terms of its value by about 20%. Is he denying the fact that there are no challenges in the international financial system?
There are challenges everywhere, but it seems, I see the Ghana challenges, or the challenges facing the Ghanaian economy, is faster than expected.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I've given you the reasons why.
Okay. All right, Mike.
Thank you very much for an opportunity to have a second bite of the cherry. I was astounded to hear my friend say that, government hasn't fared badly. You are not the one to assess yourself. You don't do an exam and then you go and assess yourself and give yourself 80% like your predecessors were doing. It's unacceptable what is going on in this country. And why are we saying that? Revenues have declined. That is a fact. But when the cocoa revenue was rising under the President Kufuor government, we didn't have those high numbers you had. That was what we call a bonanza. So you should have known, like the wise ant, as says in the Bible, go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. You go to the ant and realize that when you have the bonanza period, you put some money aside for measures just in case the bonanza goes down. But instead of planning for the bonanza, you didn't do that. You rather use the money to do all sorts of IDB campaigns. And why are we saying that? You are a parliamentarian now. You know what has been said about your expenditure. From $400 million, 400 million Ghanaian cedis over expenditure. You know that for a fact. And we are not talking about overspending.
No.
Please, let me.
Projects were started without budgetary allocation. The gang of four.
No interjection. Let me finish.
How have we
much time
now
because we need to
brought
talk about
projects
energy.
to completion?
It doesn't matter. You see, it's usually
Mike is on the floor.
it's a good strategy. At least it means that he feels pinched. So his bottom cannot settle on the seat. But it doesn't matter. I mean, it's part of. He's also a legal friend. Sometimes you can butt in. I don't mind. But the issue is that the bonanza came. You were chopping the money, using it to buy small cars for small girls to be driving in this country.
Josephine, should I?
This was going on in this country.
Remain quite silent.
Oh no, let me.
He said we were chopping the money.
Let me land because
he wants to withdraw.
Because there is no time.
He wants to withdraw. He said we were chopping the money.
Wait, why am I saying that? Because from 400 million of expenditure to 1.4 million expenditure, 1.4 billion expenditure, you went to 4 billion expenditure, and more than 3/4 of it was spent in the 3 months to election. So we begin to ask you, what was so special, especially when all the EC money and everything had already been paid for in advance? So I am saying that the government must be thinking of structural adjustment, things that they would do to solve the problem instead of making excuses. I don't understand. And look, Josephine, I want to ask my brother something. Look, we live in a country.
We need to go.
Oh, I know, but he had a little bit time. So just bear with me a bit. We have this Jida saga. Over 200 million Ghanaian cedis. Okay? Paid to government or paid by government officials. They didn't monitor this money for us. They paid the money, for no work done. It's not even on top of no work done. And when you finish, you come and tell us that the dollar won't go up because that money evaporated like thin air. Among other things, if we were to go for all this Suba, even judges in the country accuse the government of creating, looting, and sharing. Because all those people who took that money, they didn't go and rob the bank. It is government officials who signed those checks for them without due diligence.
Okay,
and
but
when
the
you make
issues
all
in court, right?
no, that's not in court. The create, loot, and share is not in court.
Not that one, but I'm talking about that of the others.
The create, loot, and share was
That
a
is
judgment.
not, yeah.
Yes, so that's the one I'm harping on.
Okay.
And I'm saying that when you go and do that kind of thing, and the money evaporates into thin air because of corruption, Ghanaians must hold you accountable. And all these warnings were there. Because the way that you are handling the economy, I couldn't understand. Now, just the last point on the raising of taxes.
Josephine,
It is a mistake.
Let's not settle. Let him finish. And we cannot talk about this alone.
Let me land.
But
you made something on taxes.
Time is not on our
it's
side.
talking about Jida now.
Allow me.
I should be given the opportunity to respond because it's raised
to buttress a
very
point,
serious
isn't it?
issues.
He used that to buttress a point.
A matter that is pending in court.
Anyway,
a matter that has been thoroughly investigated.
So he's talking about the loot and share one.
This is not a
That was why
strategy.
I asked him
It's
that. Is he
not a
talking about the
strategy.
G that's because in court, and he says no.
But that is
So
what
2
he's
minutes.
talking about.
If I may have the opportunity.
Yeah,
Now,
just 2 minutes more.
talking about raising of taxes, he said, what else do we expect the government to do? They should raise taxes so that they get more revenue. I would advise my brother here today, raising taxes has never been the best way to raise more money.
But what is it?
Because a lot of people will even pay. People will go underground. People who can't afford the taxes will fold up. So my brother, who is supposed to be the social democrat, the one who cares about the people, the one who says, as for us, social policy, but yet his government cannot boast of 2 social policies that they've brought in since 2009. And today they come and tell us that the best way of dealing with the social contract is to remove and reduce subsidies. No,
I would be compelled to respond.
I'm responding to what you said about taxes and subsidies. And now you are itching. Don't itch. Be still.
Okay, all right.
Peace. Be still. Look, all I'm saying is that you come and tell us that you are reducing subsidies because, and we are raising taxes because, and I'm saying this Social Democrat Party, your answer, your antidote to this unfortunate quagmire, in fact, the malady of Ghanaians who are very sick, is that you are going to increase taxes and remove subsidies by reduction and so on. That is very unfortunate. But I'm happy that the Ghanaians are listening to this, and they will use that as a measure and a tape to determine how to look at it.
Okay, so we are done on the economy. Let's move to energy, because it all centers on what the president will be talking about tomorrow on the State of the Nation's address. Now, on energy, governments on several times have promised to solve the energy crisis. He even went on to promise again when the T3 power plant was inaugurated. But it looks as if Ghanaians are not getting the value for their money. What is happening?
Well, Josephine, we are here talking about the president's State of the Nation address tomorrow before Parliament. And so, therefore, it is the expectation of Ghanaians that the president will tell us something about what is happening in the energy sector. It is true, we experienced, Builsa not too long ago. And Builsa was as a result of several factors, a combination of factors. West African gas pipeline was a factor, several other factors. Now, in last year's State of the Nation address, the president categorically outlined measures that he intended to implement to forestall the Builsa phenomenon. And those measures have come to pass.
But there seems to be another sort of load shedding. Now,
No.
the regulators are calling it load management. What difference does it make from the load shedding and load management? Because there seems to be a power outage each now and then.
Yes. What we are experiencing now, of course, the experts would want to call that load management.
Why? What are the differences?
Because the difference has not got much to do with, generation or the generation capacity. I think that it has to do largely with some technical hitches. And so that is why they call that load management. But as I indicated, in last year's State of the Nation address, the president outlined certain measures. Now, if you want to make a judgment as to whether the president has discharged his mandate to Ghanaians, he has fulfilled some of the promises. You'd want to ask yourself whether or not what the president promised Ghanaians has seen the day of light or not. Now, if you want to answer that question, you find that yes, some of the measures the president talked about have, come to fruition. The last phase of Oppong-Yeboah, has now been completed. It was commissioned. The president was at Oppong-Yeboah. Everybody saw whatever went on at Oppong-Yeboah. We have, gone far with the gas infrastructure at Oppong-Yeboah, which is also very close to completion. When the gas infrastructure is completed, definitely we're going to have a cheap gas to run our thermal plants, and that is most likely to result in the reduction in the electricity tariffs, because we will be able to produce, with gas as opposed to, liquefied petroleum, which we're now using to run some of our thermal plants. And so I would expect the president to mention some of the achievements we have chalked in the energy sector. Nobody can deny that fact. What we are experiencing now, is in the short term. And we're working assiduously to find solutions to, all these problems. My brother here would want to say that, look, we have, of course, reduced subsidies in that sector, and yet people are not getting value for money and so on. These problems did not start today. You cannot use a day to surmount all the challenges in the energy sector. You cannot. It's not possible. Practically, it's not possible. To expect that problems which had piled up over the period, even when they were in office, all these problems, of course, challenges were existent, and yet nothing was done. We have decided to, take the bull by the horn and find lasting solutions to the problems in the energy sector. And so, therefore, it is expected that people would be patient with government while we roll out the solutions. As I said, this is load management. It is in the short term. It's not going to be protracted, as we saw in the case of the Builsa problems we experienced.
Yeah, I seem to be on you much more because you are in government. Now, utility services providers last year asked for more increase in utility prices. And I quite remember Ghanaians saying that they do not bother or mind to pay more money if the services are going to be good. Yeah. So why the situation?
Well, as I said, the PURC is the regulator. And so if what we are currently experiencing is as a result of genuine difficulties that the utility providers are faced with, definitely the PURC issues directives as and when necessary. But as I said, the utility providers, when they are faced with genuine difficulties and the attention of the PURC is brought to, the fact that they are faced with genuine difficulties, you don't expect them to conjure magic. You'd expect them to find solutions to those problems practically. Right. And that is what is happening.
Mike, we're talking about energy. A lot is going on load management and what have you.
Look at the names. Let's start with the load issues. Look at the names. Let's start with the first one, load shedding. They will have load management. And then very soon we'll have load engineering. Then we'll have load psychology. Then we'll have load tautology. What is all this? The light, no day. Simple. This weekend, I thought I was living in a disco. Because the light was going, all over. And instead of you telling us that, we realize that in fact the Builsa is worse. Now it's coming Dunkra. Just a Kobe. Now you are telling us that, and there's load management and the technical, and the president to come and tell us his achievement that I don't have light. Is that achievement? And to make it worse, no light to no water. So what should I do? And that's why I'm saying that, you see, I like the unequivocal kind of thing that, look, we are facing some challenges because of this, of that. So we are going to do something about it. give us some time. But you have no achievements to tell us about. Because if you've achieved anything, we will get the light. We all know the efforts that were put into bringing in the Bui Dam. Now it's been completed by God's grace. We know that the Tico 3 project was started before. Now it's also... So we want to see results. That's all I say. I sat here on this program at the beginning of the year, told by a gentleman on the other side, who is now one of the government agency bosses, telling me that there was no Dumso. Deputy Energy Minister sat here with me as well. My good brother John told me there's no Dumso. Today, my brother Agalga has sat here and said that there used to be Dumso. So the one that is dooming now, what is it? There is a name, the nickname. You can call this or you can call it that, but the value is the same. So I just want us to not really argue about this. All we are saying is that if it's broke, fix it. Make sure that, as was done prior to you coming to power, there was a problem. The reason was given to Ghanaians. And that's what I like. You came, you told us there was this about West Africa gas pipeline, there was this, there was that. You told us those things. Now, if they are fixed, why are you now telling us about management? Because before, the problem was that there were no rains. So the turbines couldn't work. As for that one, it's disaster, not man-made. This is drought. It's only God who can send rains.
Okay.
So now that there was no rain, it was explained to Ghanaians that because of that, the electricity generation will not be enough. So we'll give you some of the time and you some of the other time. As soon as the rains came, everything came to normal. Even to the extent that at that time, there were serious challenges. Crude, $140 per barrel and all of that. So you look for solutions to the problems. But when you are now in government and you have done so by telling us that these are the problems, and now those problems are solved, then after that you tell us that now, oh, the load is there, but it's about the management. It's no more shedding. Then we begin to ask, if you cannot manage the load, then are you supposed to be the one managing it?
Okay.
Are you supposed to be in government?
Now, let's talk about water. Another major necessity of a human is water, and we are aware of the water situation in Accra and other parts of the regions now. Could it be that the engineers at the Ghana Water Company do not periodically, check through the pipelines or the how do you call it, the equipment that brings water through? Could it be another factor? Because I do not understand why you're supposed to give water to all and sundry, then suddenly there's no water in the system.
Okay, with the water thing, it's a bit dicey. But I want to start by saying this. I have a friend who is a doctor. For the whole month, that's even before this thing was announced, for about 6 weeks, because it started January, sometime early January. She has been bathing sometimes with pure water in the morning, because she can't even, when she fills the tank, by the time she is ready to bath in the morning, it's finished. Okay. Now we know that pure water too is now 20 pesos. It's moved from 10 pesos quickly, gradually, in between, and then 10 pesos, 20. Then I begin to ask myself that why don't I now go to the doorstep of my brother James Agalga and ask James, please, this has nothing to do with politics, but I want to ask you, is it coincidental that where I live in Hacho, around Supermarket Junction, we used to have water 24 hours? In 2009 August till now, we also have water problems. Is it coincidence that since your government came to power, we are seeing rather reduction in the supply of water in that area? Or if I tell you that too, it's politics? Because then it means that something has happened which is worse for the people in that area.
Okay.
So these are just natural questions that by all means I'll ask you, because I'm suffering. I'm not getting water. What about those who can't afford to be buying the water into their tanks? And these are the people that you say you care about.
All right. Honorable
So
Agalga.
let's look for
Josephine.
policies for the masses.
Okay.
Josephine,
What is causing the water shortage?
I think the recent shortage in Accra was as a result of the burst pipeline at Weja. So quite naturally, that resulted in acute water shortage in parts of Accra. It's unfortunate that all these things are happening just at about the same time. You see, one may want to sound pessimistic.
Cumulative effect.
Pessimists would want to say, why? Is it the case that nature has conspired against the NDC government and giving people like my brother here a field day to say all manner of things against the NDC government? But we shall prevail. For me, what is inspiring is that in the face of all these challenges, government has not panicked. Government is doing everything possible to extend the supply of water to residents living in Accra. For instance, the Oppong water project is supposed to see an upgrade in terms of the capacity of that plant to produce, I think, something within the region of 53,000 barrels per day, as opposed to the current level of production, which is around 40,000. Now, when that project is completed, there is no question whatsoever that some areas in Accra which are currently not enjoying, constant water supply, like Adenta and other suburbs, will be brought on board. And so efforts are being made. To the extent that we now have to decide what to do. Should we shut down the plant to pave the way for the upgrade? These are some of the challenges we are faced with.
But there seems to be so many factors contributing to the challenges of people not getting water in their various homes. Who makes sure that there is periodic maintenance exercise, on the equipment?
Of course, the Ghana Water Company itself is duty bound to ensure that there are periodic maintenance.
But they had a press conference last year that
you see,
they asked the government for money for maintenance, and the government didn't give them the money.
Okay.
You see, Josephine, we are talking about a burst pipeline.
No, before the burst
something
pipeline
must have happened. That is what actually resulted in the current crisis. So if
you're
you
not
take
giving
us back,
them the money,
if you take us back, if you take us back and say Ghana Water Company once complained that money that was due them for maintenance was not given, and so that is what is responsible for the current water shortage. That is last year. Did we face these crises?
But where is the money? Why did you give it to Chida? Why didn't you
give them the money to do the work? Chida is being investigated.
We'll return with some other discussion in Ghana, live from our studios here at Metro Television. And my name, Josephine Oppong-Yeboah, stepping in for Randy Abe. So my discussant has been Mike Ocquaye Jr., who is the former Deputy Secretary for the NPP Greater Accra. And next to him is Honorable James Agalga, who is the MP for Builsa North and the Deputy Interior Minister. So we're moving on to other discussions. On the front page of the Scandal newspaper, it says, government to ban imports. It's a question, a recipe for disaster. And it's a story by the Scandal newspaper, and it says, in the wake of the free fall of the Ghana cedi, many solutions have been offered from various quarters, but one suggestion that is sending shivers down the spines of all in Ghana is a suggestion that government is considering placing an embargo on certain imports as part of measures to curb the country's dwindling trade deficit. President John Mahama told the BBC last month that his government is targeting a reduction of $1 billion imports of food and cited rice, sugar, tomatoes, cooking oil, fish and poultry products as some of the food imports that have to be looked at. So I begin with you, Honorable Agalga. Can you outline what government wants to do, what it's all about?
I think that the Scandal newspaper caption is something that must not pass without comment, because they have posed a question whether the intended ban on the importation of rice, tomatoes, sugar, etc. is recipe for disaster or not. My answer is that those are some of the measures that are needed to stabilize the Ghanaian cedi. if you consider the fact that over $1 billion is spent by this country on importing rice, polished rice, tomatoes, sugar, clearly the city is bound to come under pressure, because and this is we are talking about times when there's a decline in the prices of cocoa and gold. So the little money that we make in terms of foreign exchange is used to import rice, tomatoes. These are goods that can be produced locally. And so what government is seeking to do is to encourage production locally of rice. Now we have an issue at hand, which is that we must encourage Ghanaians to change their taste. Because if we have to ban the importation of rice, people must learn to eat local rice. Okay. It's amazing. It's amazing that in Ghana, we don't want to eat what we produce. If you go to neighboring Sierra Leone, I have been there, and what I saw in Sierra Leone was amazing. We must emulate their example. Liberia, they don't eat polished rice. They eat the locally produced rice. And so we're saying that the time has come when government must take very bold decisions to ban the importation of some of these things. Okay. Sugar, tomatoes, rice. We must create the market locally for what we produce.
Okay, let me talk about assuming we ban imported rice. Now let's talk about the locally made rice here in Ghana. It is expensive because I've bought it a few times. But how prepared are our farmers here to produce a bigger quantity for the citizenry? And then also, do we have the mechanism or the equipment to polish our rice? A lot goes into it.
Yes, you see.
How prepared are we?
Yes, Josephine, these measures are not about to be implemented in a vacuum. We know that, yes, certain things must be put in place. As we speak now, if you go to the Volta region, I think I've forgotten the name of the town, but that is the constituency of Honorable Woyomi, in Parliament. A rice mill is going to be constructed there by investors. If you go to the northern region, another rice mill is also going to come on board. And so we are beginning to put the structures in place to add quality to what we produce locally.
But rice is a major consumable here in Ghana.
It is, but the point we're making is that we don't consume the local rice. And so the time has come for us to encourage production locally and the consumption of locally produced rice as opposed to imported rice. Josephine, is it not mind-boggling that we're spending over $1 billion to import tomatoes? Because a lot of tomatoes is produced, up north. We can produce a lot of tomatoes in the front plains. So we're saying that, look, this is the time to step up local production, and government is going to give incentive to local farmers to step up production.
So what's
after we have produced, we must also change our habits and learn to eat what we produce locally. As I said, if you visit our neighboring countries, when I visited Sierra Leone, I never saw imported rice, in any restaurant there. We ate the local rice. Okay. And then the evidence is that the locally produced rice is even more nutritious.
Okay, all right. Mike, there seems to be a lot going on wrong in our country. After over 50-something years of independence, we are still importing even simple thing that can be produced here in Ghana. Assuming these bans we're talking about come into fusion, can we sustain it?
Yes, we can. I believe that the Ghanaian is capable of doing anything that they put their mind to. And every government is different. Some governments focus on certain areas as a sort of flagship area where they will use that to build into various territories eventually. Let us look at the problem with production in this country. It's very easy to say that we should not import rice. But what is the problem? The problem is we import roughly about 600,000 metric tons. Local production in this country makes up only about 150,000. So that means there's a shortage or a deficit of about 450,000. So unless we are able to close that gap, how are we going to eat? That's a practical question to ask before you talk about the fact that somebody should maybe, which is a good idea, change position. Change your taste buds. Let us be social and democratic in the way we eat rice. Fine. But you cannot be socially democratic in your rice eating if there's a gap. So how are we going to fill that gap? If you look at poultry, for example, poultry products that Ghanaians eat, 160,000 metric tons. Okay? Now, after eating this amount, the local is about 16,000 metric tons. 10%. So how do you get the 90%? In fact, let me tell you something. Those who eat the locally produced chicken, that's organic chicken, are rather the rich in this country. Because the local one is actually more expensive.
It is very expensive.
More expensive than the frozen one that is brought from abroad in heaps, which people tease and call ifunu, which means the chicken could have been dead, could have been whatever, you don't know. So anybody who's rather privileged rather eats local chicken at home from the local poultry farmers, which is more expensive because we have to look at issues of government subsidy on their feed, government subsidy in trying to get them the markets. All these things government hasn't put in place. We haven't put in place credit facilities. ADB, which is mainly supposed to be looking after agricultural farmers, is this the core thing that they are doing at the moment? If not, can we change and tweak it a bit? If not, can we make maybe the farmer one a bit more less interest and so on? These are the measures that we should look at and put in place before we complain. Because in this very, very country, Ghana, we have local production at all. Because certain government officials want to come with finished products, TOR is not working. TOR is not producing. TOR workers are being paid. All the byproducts from refining the crude, the kerosene, the bitumen, the paraffin, the RFO, all these things, we are not getting it. Because some people are dealing in finished products in this country. And these same people cannot even just work on crude and let TOR work. Are they telling us that they can be in charge of local rice production and consumption in this country when the farmers are supposed to be assisted with tractors? And then only one man, Mr. Agalga, has 5 tractors. And the farmers are not getting the tractors unless you are NDC crony.
Josephine,
this was something that was
established.
It was not only established, it was very established in the year 2009.
Josephine,
why don't you know about Ayariga tractors?
I remember quite well the frustration.
Oh, it even became a song, Ayariga tractor.
I remember quite well the frustration poultry farmers faced under Kufuor. They went as far as the Supreme Court to challenge the lifting of a certain ban on the importation of poultry products, and they went through some frustration. Whilst the matter was pending in court, some legislation was passed and their hopes was dashed. I don't think we have forgotten all too soon. We have come and we're saying that, look, let us ban the importation of poultry products.
Okay, can you conclude on
and we think that is not good. Poultry farmers now know who is interested in encouraging local production.
Yes. Okay, Mike. Unless maybe they have a certain card. if they have NDC card, they will get a tractor to work.
Oh,
if they don't have that card,
unfortunate.
they won't get a tractor. But we know this matter. Oh,
it's unfortunate.
It's very strange.
It's unfortunate to suggest that
when I was
before tractors are
as soon as I got on the Agalga
tractors are distributed, one must
started
have an NDC card.
Okay,
he had 5. But no, but
if that was what obtained in the MPP era, that is not what is happening now.
But the way he's interrupting me, you're not telling him that, let me finish. Because
no, but you sit here and accuse Agalga that Agalga appropriated 6 tractors.
And this is 5.
I must respond.
No.
It's 5. But
I would
respond after.
No,
okay, he says interrupt. Fine. Anyway, as I'm going on that matter, local production, they can't even take control. Directives during the MPP era, for example, when it came to things like cable, when it came to scratch cards, eventually passed by legislation by the NDC, which was a very good continuance of such a good policy. These are the things that will make Ghana move forward. So I think that the NDC should be more engaged in policy instead of being engaged in rhetoric, because rhetoric never ever helped with things like import-export ban. They rather always tell us we're about to ban. Did you hear what happened? After making this announcement, they went to consult the relevant bodies. In fact, there was so much rancor, and that's the word that the newspaper uses.
Yeah,
rancor, that they even had to hold the rest of the meeting in camera, i.e. they had to let the press go. Because what they would have seen, it would have been nasty.
Okay,
so all I'm saying is that when you want to come up with such policies, first of all, NDC, go into the room, meet the various people, come up with a strategy, then you come out with a decision. Don't come and tell us with rhetoric, oh, the NDC government wants to do this, and then later on when you go, it's not working, then there's rancor.
Okay, now certainly the ban can really come into fusion, but a lot of homeworks need to be done. For instance, we import tomato from Burkina Faso and other places. And the local farmer here in Ghana keep complaining, because there's even a story we carried on our network that has to say that tomato, producers from the up north, okay, are facing a whole lot of challenges. Road network. A lot seems to not to be right. Okay, so after 54 years of independence, what is keeping us from producing in bigger quantity of our own produce to sell?
Yes, you would see that government has a policy which is to ensure that in, say, northern Ghana, which is very arid in this, time of the year, you construct irrigation dams so that the people can resort to the production of tomatoes in the dry season. Government is on course. If you go to the VIA irrigation scheme, which for a long time was out of use because for so many years it hadn't seen any repair works, it's almost nearing completion.
Yeah.
The canals in Navrongo and all that, are supposed to be fixed to ensure that in the dry season, local farmers can continue to produce tomatoes for the local market. It's not as if government is just talking and is using rhetoric.
Yeah.
Measures are being put in place systematically.
Which cannot be done overnight.
Overnight, that is the point. You see, and so when my brother here argues that, look, we don't make the announcement before we go to consult, that is not what we have done. A lot of consultation has taken place. Remember in my submission, I said that some incentives are going to be given to local farmers to encourage them to produce more, to feed the local market.
Mike.
Yes. I'm happy that he's telling us of some of the government schemes that are nearing completion. That is a very good sign. All I was saying is that when you have headlines, government about to ban this, government about to do this, they should usually come after they are about to do it, not when they are thinking about doing it.
Okay.
In any case, I believe that Ghana as a nation, we can all come together and get some good policies that will help us.
All right, so thank you so much for watching. My guest has been Michael Ocquaye Jr., who is the former Deputy Secretary Greater Accra for the NPP, and also Honorable James Agalga, who is the MP for Builsa North, and also the Deputy Interior Minister. My name, Josephine Oppong-Yeboah, stepped in for Randy Abe. Show proudly brought to you by Lipton. Randy will join you tomorrow. And it's a brand new week, so be good, think positive, and stay blessed. Thank you.
Mali.